Hi everybody, and welcome to our week number 9 Twitch live stream for my research methods class. I hope everyone is doing well. Keep waiting for the rain that was supposed to come today, but it's actually almost a little bit sunny outside at the moment, so who knows? We'll see what happens. But I hope everyone is hanging in there. We are definitely past the halfway point of the semester at this point. It's week number 9. I want to take a few minutes today to talk about the exam that we had last week, and then we'll obviously jump into the materials that we have going on this week as well. But I hope you're taking care of yourself as we pass the halfway point of the semester, and we're almost 2 weeks into March. I feel like it's going so quickly. Let's go ahead and go over to Canvas in a second here, but just to make sure really quickly, everything coming through okay? Someone give me like a yes or a thumbs up or something if everything is loud and clear and you can hear and see me just fine. It all looks good on my end, but all good. All right, thank you. Thanks for letting me know. All right, let's head over to Canvas then and see what we have going on. Thank you both for letting me know. And again, if you scroll down 8 weeks in the books, we are now in week number 9. So really quickly, just as some feedback for you, just a little of like perspective and statistics, especially in this class. We obviously had exam number 2 last week, and a lot of you did really well. You know, the scores were a tiny bit lower than the last exam, but still really strong, which makes me happy to see. I think it's great evidence that a lot of you are understanding the materials and things are going well on your end. The high score was 100, the low score was a 52. The average was a 94, and the average amount of time people took was about 34 minutes. So again, on my end, what that tells me is a lot of you were studying, you were prepared, you had more than enough time. Obviously, 100% is a fantastic score. That the average is an A is also fantastic. So it makes me happy to see that so many of you are doing so well. I also was really impressed with the discussion last week. A lot of you did a beautiful job kind of looking at how could we get that sample from the bookstore. Number one reason people lost points, again, just not giving me enough. And a few of you, I keep giving you the same feedback each week. So make sure you're seeing my feedback and that you're always giving me a little bit more if you find that you're missing a point or two on those discussions. Otherwise, we move on to week number 9. And this week we have a chapter, a discussion, a little self-assessment, and then the extra credit. So kind of a typical week. Next week we do have that third homework assignment, but this week keeping it simple with the reading, the lecture, the discussion, that self-assessment, and then if you wanted to, the extra credit from this live stream. So let's take a look at what we have going on. And as always, you'll want to do 3 things with every chapter, right? Read the chapter in the textbook, read the lecture, and click on everything that I've given you. And then, of course, watch the lecture video and consider taking notes. Obviously, pay attention. So if you click on the chapter 10 lecture, you'll notice that what we're looking at this week is simple experiments. So we're looking at the topic of like a simple experiment, identifying variables, which we've definitely been doing for a little while now. So hopefully that knowledge base will be helpful for you. Looking at causal claims, independent groups designs versus within groups designs. So different types of experiments and ways that we could set that up. These little graphics on the side might be really helpful for that. Criteria related to causality, the 4 validities and causal claims. So read through, my little objectives and summary here. On the Beyond the Book page, I have a little bit about how to conduct an experiment. So kind of the steps that would be involved if you were to be conducting one. And so make sure you read through all of that. And then I have the source for it at the end there. And on the last page, you have all of the key terms that you need to know for the next exam, which won't be for a few weeks, but if you wanted to study one chapter at a time, you could utilize this information to start now. So I gave that to you. Of course, watch the lecture video where I am lecturing with some PowerPoint slides, and you might consider taking notes. This is me covering all of the core topics. And then once you've done those 3 things, the reading, the lecture, and the lecture video, you can do discussion number 9. So discussion number 9 is all about the chapter for this week. As always, you have my instructions at the top, followed by a video. Definitely watch the video. Be sure to be detailed in your responses. As I mentioned a moment ago, if you find that you're consistently getting like a 13 or a 14, give me a little bit more, but a lot of you are doing great on these discussions. Hopefully you're kind of falling into that groove at this point. But this one is all about an introduction to simple experiments. So what we're going to do here is play around with your own experimental design. And this is something that might actually help you with the final project that we'll have in this class. Maybe, maybe not. It'll depend on whether you want to use the same topic. But I want you to come up with a topic that interests you. It does not have to be related to psychology, but if you want it to be related to psychology, it could. And then you're going to basically design an experiment, right? As if you were going to do it one day. And maybe some of you will become researchers and do it one day. But for now, you're just going to create a clear experimental idea and design. You're going to describe it by answering these following questions. So what are you researching? In other words, what is your hypothesis? What do you want to know? Kind of give me a little bit about what you would research, what you want to know, what you might be predicting or expecting to happen. Number 2, what is the independent variable and its different levels or conditions? And what is the dependent variable? I want you very specifically to tell me, how are you going to measure whatever it is you're manipulating? What are you manipulating and what are the different conditions? How will you select your participants? So how are you going to get the people for your study? And we just covered the idea of like samples and populations. So I want you to describe your methods, describe how you'll gather participants, what kind of sample are you going to use? Is your experiment an independent groups or within groups design? And explain, like, what kind of experiment is it? And give me a little bit of information, explain what it is. Is your experiment a pre-test, post-test design? Post-test only, repeated measures, or concurrent measures? And this is stuff that's all being covered this week. So what kind of design are we looking at for your experiment? What are your control variables? And are there any confounding variables? Are there anything that we need to kind of account for? Anything that could confound your results? Are you doing anything to control for other variables? Describe, kind of give me all that information. And then finally, what else will you do to ensure internal validity? And I want you to think about things like covariance, temporal precedence, counterbalancing, all that kind of stuff, all the stuff that we've been covering. So come up with something creative and fun or something that interests you. It could be anything. We were talking a lot today in my class about like TMS and ketamine. Maybe if I were to come up with something off the top of my head, be looking at like what is the, like looking at treatment for depression. And maybe I would be predicting that people who do TMS will have more success than people who do ketamine. And so my independent variable would be like the conditions would be TMS or ketamine and maybe nothing, right? I could have multiple conditions to it. How would I measure it? My dependent variable would be their depression, which maybe I would measure with some kind of inventory, right? So again, that's kind of what I want you to do. Like spell out each individual element of what you would do with your design and pick something that interests you that's going to make it more, hopefully more exciting. And as I mentioned earlier, it does not have to be related to psychology, though you are welcome for it to be if you would like. The other thing that you have this week, you do have another one of those little self-assessments. Remember, these are worth 5 points. And I want you to be honest, right? Please be honest. It's all about reflecting on your grade so far. What can you do differently or what do you want to do the same? Really take a moment to kind of reflect on your learning and your process so far, especially in a class like research methods. You always want to be evaluating what you're doing and is it working for you? There's no time limit, but it is worth 5 points. So make sure that you do that at some point this week to get those points. And again, please be honest. I will, of course, post the recording of this a little bit later. There's your checklist down here if you want to make sure you've done everything. And I'll give you that extra credit question in a moment. I do, of course, have a couple of reminders for you. And then if you have any questions for me, I would be more than happy to answer them. So as always, I type this out. Please make sure you're double checking that subscription status. There are only 6 of you in a class of 50 that are subscribed. I know it takes a couple of steps. But if you have the ability to figure it out, I appreciate the time it saves me. And remember that if you're watching this as a recording, you can still get those extra credit points if you're subscribed on Twitch. And you can do that for free as long as you follow all of those steps. The other message that I would like to put in here is related to our next live stream. So let me put this in the chat. Our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, March 19th at 1 o'clock p.m. Okay, so I put that in the chat. We have class like normal next week, and then that following week is a very exciting week. It's spring break, right? So the week of the 24th to the 28th, we won't have anything due. It will be our spring break, so no live stream, no materials, no nothing. It's a nice break. I hope some of you get a chance to do something fun. This is like the first spring break in several years where we're not going on a cruise. I'm a little sad, but we are going down to San Diego to do like the Wild Animal Park and SeaWorld and Legoland. So hopefully that will be kind of fun. But we will have a live stream like normal next week, Wednesday at 1 o'clock. So let me give you the extra credit question for this week, and then I'll see if you have any questions for me. And as we have settled in here to our routine, kind of short and sweet, but this is the week number 9 Twitch live stream question. For those of you joining me or watching this later and being subscribed, what is the difference between an independent groups design and a within groups design? So what is the difference between an independent groups design and a within groups design? And when you're ready to answer that, you go back to Canvas, and since we're in week 9, you'll click on optional Twitch extra credit number 9 right here. And then up at the top, you can click on start assignment to bring up the text box where you can type your response. Wow. Hopefully you spell it better than I did. And then when you're ready, you'll hit submit, get your confetti burst, and butterflies. Very nice. And so again, please take advantage of this. A lot of you have been doing that, which is fantastic. It's a lot of points at the end of the semester if you've been doing these every week. And if you're just starting now, it's still a lot of points. So I'm glad that so many of you are taking advantage. What I will do is I'll hang out for a little bit if you do have any questions for me. Otherwise, you're welcome to get started on all the materials for this week. Drive safely if you're driving out and about, as it's supposed to still rain a little bit today and tomorrow and Friday. Have a wonderful week. Hang in there if you're starting to feel a little burnt out. Again, spring break is coming very, very soon. So hang in there. It's on its way. I'm going to minimize my video, but I will hang out for a little while. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, thank you all so much for joining me. And again, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you as well. Bye. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. I'm so glad to have so many of you joining me every time. It's fantastic to have you all with me. And I will hang out for a few minutes, like I said, if you have any questions. Otherwise, you're welcome to take off and have a wonderful week. And again, I am still here if you think of anything. And of course, you can always email me later if you think of something later.